Antline, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I I'm not quite sure if we caught that last round there, but it is important to note that Fluffy has some of the best flash stats in CSC on a consistent basis. He is one of the best utility players in the league, so
He's definitely
that could have a big impact on this game.
for sure. And what Antline's referring to, of course, was that flash up banana, the CTs on an eco, USBs in hand, but a couple grenades. Fuffy perfectly flashed the defender sitting car and then got a headshot on him through the plywood. It just beautiful play. And that's like you were saying earlier, Antline. That's kind of the what separates the lower tiers from the higher tiers. It's just that sort of heads up game sense. Somebody's gonna be here. I want him to be blind when I push up banana with my team.
It's even if you're a weaker player individually, your ability to set up your teammates can often be invaluable. If you can't rely on yourself to get a frag in an important moment, you can always make sure that you're alive to make sure that your teammates who are better can get that kill. And that's sort of you can be valuable without necessarily being really good. And those are the sort of players that you would want to draft and sort of find on your team in the preseason so you can know who to keep. I think every team needs a player like that.
Right. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a lot of competition experience, and I was asking him specifically about CSC and getting drafted. And I said, "Hey, what about my headshot stat?" And he said something to the effect of, "Nobody at his level, like serious competition level, ever talks about headshot percentage," which was so odd to me because it's so prolific as a stat to keep track of, even amongst, whether you're playing matchmaking or pugs or whatever. But then watching pro players, we as the spectators care. Well, Yendikar. I can never pronounce his name. What's his headshot percentage? But at a high level, they stop caring about that because there's so much more to the game. Whether you're just getting the kills, whether you're setting up your team for these excellent plays, like the terrorists are doing banana right now.
I think this round could honestly go either way at this point, but it does look like the Brim Reaper just wants to play for. Is he gonna go for this?
Well,
I think
they're
he's just.
both
Are they,
lit.
I think they're just trolling. I don't know. They're just holding for the exits, I guess. That was a little bit weird.
Yeah,
I think teams don't need to necessarily have someone with an insane headshot percentage as long as they're a cohesive unit and at any moment anyone can get a kill. You don't need to be this insane player to get kills if you can work precisely with your teammates to sort of make sure that everyone can be set up to get a kill. And that's infinitely more valuable. In CSC, the competition bar is a lot lower because it's a casual league, or it's meant for people who aren't at the pro level, obviously. So at some points, your aim can often just sort of win you games that you don't really deserve to win. Last season, I had a 1.35 rating in contender. We stomped pretty much every team until the grand finals. But that was a lot of that was me out aiming people. That was the only reason I individually was performing well was because of my aim due to the lower competition sort of bar. But when you get to the point of maybe Premier, it becomes less about the aim and more about, okay, are you going to be able to set yourself up to trade your teammates? Or are you going to be able to make sure that if you die, your teammates are going to be able to capitalize or maybe sort of bite the wound and lick the wound and make sure that it doesn't hemorrhage? And that's really
absolutely.
where that's where the value in a player lies is their ability to be useful even if they aren't getting the kills.
Absolutely. And so to speak to that point, we do see a lot of utility on the field right now. Scotch here smoked off in the cubby position. The terrorists about ready to ingress out of middle, and Boiler getting the pick. They're making a play for this A site, and there's only one defender left to really respond to them. Brim Reaper does find Wayton with a headshot. Dingo finding Brim Reaper. It is now a 3v2 with the bomb going down, and both CTs in over towards Library and or Arches. Drew finding a pick through a box onto Dingo with the op. 2v2 now.
Fluffy wanting to move closer, I don't know if Drew is going to be able to help him here, but it doesn't matter. Fluffy gets the kill on the low HP player, and T-Doggin's left hiding in lane. He does have a molly, but he swings early. Molly to cover the bomb now. Kill into Drew, and the Molly. Fuffy steps right into it without noticing. And that's a 1v2 for T-Doggins right there. Plays the angles perfectly, isolates the gunfights that he knows are going to come to him because of the Molly that he threw down.
That was spooky timing, but it worked out beautifully. He even gets the burn kill as the icing on the cake.
It does sort of. You have to acknowledge at some point, though, that it sort of feels like AVI aren't doing much to stop the T's from being able to get picks. Other than throwing basic utility at the start of every round, they're not really doing much to dissuade the T's from going for these fights, from going for these picks.
All right, there's a lot more they could be doing. I see the CTs immediately giving up the car position, which is such a powerful position for you to hold. With smokes, with flashes, with mollies, whatever it takes, keep somebody at least sandbags. But I can tell they're struggling a little bit economically. I can see where they might want to play this a little more cautiously, but it looks like it's about to cost them with the terrorists straight up middle. 1-to-1 trades, another one swinging in, 2 Moss finding Brim Reaper. 2v2 now, and they don't know it, but the A-bomb site is clear as the CTs rotate in through library and arches.
Advantage situation given up. The CTs had info, but they just gave up free fights in top mid. Gave the T's a way back into the round after they had been choked and starved for information, starved for any sort of pressure.
That's you.
Swings coming in onto sites, but it's still just one-on-one gunfights here from the CTs. They're not really taking anything together. Tumas taking out Saber, Fuffy falling back in lane. He doesn't have an outlet back into this round. Can't throw himself back in. The bomb radius, though, the bomb radius could actually stop them both from saving here. I don't think they've realized it, but they had to have left seconds ago. They're late. They're both gonna die to this bomb.
I don't think the corner's going to save you too much.
Oh,
Oh my
nine,
goodness.
9 HP. That's a they planted it backside, knowing that they were low, knowing that they wouldn't be able to get away from the bomb in time if someone was holding for exits.
Now that's some heads up play. Like we were talking about, there's a lot of kind of immaterial stats that define a good player. One of them is going to be that information sharing. We talked about a little bit about the player, say, anchoring B on Vertigo, taking ground and then calming that back. But comms are so much more than just saying, you know, where you died from or maybe even where you saw the guy, but things like, you know, not even the footsteps you hear, but comms can be so valuable for calling out, hey, Purple, I need you to flash me in, I'm going to swing wide. And setting up these sorts of plays like we're seeing the terrorists set up here on the B-bomb site.
And normally these rounds that the T's are winning, it's sort of one person coming in, popping an entry, and then the rest of the team groups up and hits. But this round is just a flat-out rush. AVI are not expecting it, and they get rolled. Fuffy gets taken out. Coffin's player doesn't capitalize on the free kill on Foxbird. It's scrappy. But it's the last round of the half, so they have to go for this retake. One player in Banana, 3 T's to contend with. Foxbird in the pool position. I don't think they expect him here. Saber jumps over the coffin smoke and dies. Gets his head taken clean off. Scotch. And what more can you do? Nothing. That's the answer. Not a single kill for him.
A valiant effort, though, from the CTs there, trying to make something happen at the end of the half. But we're going to see this Inferno half one end with AVI 5 rounds to Savannah's 10.
You do sort of have to wonder how the comms are going to affect the rest of this game. You know, you're looking at Banana in that second to last round there. They have the CTs, they retake car. Are they calming that? Why did Drew swing top mid? Did he think that there was no information? The comms need to be tight here if AVI want to pull this back. 10-5, and they're going on the T side now. Things are going to get rough for them if they can't pull it together.
Well, this is their chance of all the maps in the active duty pool. Inferno feels like one of the biggest opportunities for Pug Stars to frag out on the T side specifically. So the question is whether they'll be able to shake off maybe any of the bad vibes they've got lingering from the first half and really go off in this second half. Well, we've got 3 terrorists right up alt mid looking to make this happen. Scotch now, pushing CT's back to site, but we've got Foxbird ready to respond. Scotch finding a headshot onto him. He's going to go clear apartments now, but the CT's fallen back to pit, and it looks like the terrorists have decided A's not quite the play. It's going to be a B hit. Tumas, though, with a great headshot.
Yes,
Almost, woo! Almost
two and
finds a
two,
third.
2 and 3 force off of that. That's crazy. That's a lot of impact from such a hard position. Saber does get taken out, and now the bomb, it's completely disconnected from these other two T players. The CT rotate is coming in, but there's a flank, and I don't think they're expecting this at all. They don't realize that Fuffy is completely alone here, and they're not going to check for this. They do. They do check for it, waiting. Watches the flank. Are they expecting both players to come through the same door? They are, doubling up to hold this door. One peeks, but the other falls back, and that's one-on-one gunfights given again from AVI, not AVI.
Savannah.
Savannah. There we go.
Well,
That's the
there
word.
was. It looked like Fuffy was trying to line up a pre-aim, and he ended up pointing at the bricks right when he got swung by a CT. Fortunately, his teammate was there to back him up and push the CT back into church, but that could have ended very badly.
I think once, sure, you can take all of that ground on B, right? And it is unfortunate that they do lose two trying to entry in, but you still have two players who are completely disconnected from that take. And what happens if anything goes wrong? You know, you lose a player and they have two there. Now it's a 2-on-2 fight. When you're on the T side, you should be grouping up on these pistol rounds, taking everything together. And it sort of backfires on them. Foxbird getting one in apps, but immediately traded on the other side of the map. The two Moss taken out.
This is
Three
kind of
players towards the B bomb site now.
3 players on B. Neither team really committing to anything. If you were in this position, how would you be playing this antline?
If I'm on the T side or the CT side,
T
depends.
side.
I think T side, you sort of have to predict the rotations. You know, you just got kills. They're probably going to be rushing down mid. I think they had mid players holding for exactly that. But you hold for a bit and then you group up and you just hit something quickly.
Well, it looks like we are going to see the group up now to Brim Reaper and Scotch. We had Fuffy there to keep them distracted over on the B bomb site, but I think that the CTs have figured out it's actually going to be an A hit. Brim Reaper clearing all the angles, and Scotch looking lane there towards library, finds one, drops to another, but the bomb's going down in the safe position. 1v2.
Yeah,
Can't
and
quite close it out.
that is unfortunate. It sort of seems like that they're lacking the group up and hit something hard mentality. They're playing it a little bit too slow. It's good to be cautious against pistols because you don't want to give them some sort of dumb nade kills that then gives them a gun and then they kill someone and it just sort of the dominoes fall from there, right? But there's also a fine line between just playing too slow and playing cautiously. And I think they cross the line a bit.
Cross
Forced
the
onto the
line,
save.
landed on in save territory. We
Yeah, next round is a save. If they lose this one or they don't get a bomb plant, it's just a saver.
Yeah. We do have a Galil, 3 Mac 10s, and a Tech 9, and a Dream on the T side. Why don't you
You can
walk us
always
through
make
this round?
dreams. You can always make dreams a reality. So I think the group up towards A, it is a very good idea, but not showing any presence on banana at all is going to make the CTs inquisitive, and I think they are starting to get the idea that hey, we can smoke bottom banana, we can take the space, and that's exactly what they're doing. T Doggins with the op. If they leave him alone here, he can hold this, and that's exactly what's going to happen. I think. No, he's going to double up with Dingo, but they've missed their window to have only two players to take out on A, and the utility holding them back effectively. They're funneling out of apartments. A trade does go the way of the T's, but Brim Reaper completely alone on the fall off, and it's just one-on-one gunfights again.
Foxbird, cool as a cucumber. Just, it's raining men, and Foxbird is just knocking them down as soon as they line up, switches to the pistol, and looks for more. I love that kind of confident play. That's awesome to see. And definitely another round comfortably in the counter-terrorist back pocket. These terrorists have some work to do. What would you be thinking right now if you're in the T side? How are you going to break this momentum?
I think you have to think of it less about breaking the momentum and more about figuring out where the holes are, because you're running so fast, you're going to miss detail in the sidelines. You've got to sort of think, well, what can we be doing different that they're not going to realize? Should we play faster? Should we sort of set someone up to look for picks top mid? Because right now they don't really have info on anything. They don't have info on the default setups of the CTs. They don't have info on what they're not doing. They don't know what they really should be doing to react to anything. They have to create the reaction. They can't just expect it to form out of thin air so they can take space off of that or sort of get info off of that.
On the topic of taking space and getting info, we do have Drew all the way up banana here. There is a defensive smoke that the CTs, I don't know who threw it, but it benefited the CTs here. We do have Dingo up there in the boost position. Well, it looks like Dingo and Tumas are both kind of boosted up. So the question will be whether they think to check these angles. Dingo finds one. Nobody thinks to check the flower boost, though. Saber does get a headshot onto Tumas in response, but it may be, unfortunately, not enough.
They did sort of find the right window to pop in a B, the only smoke is gone, all they have left is a molly. They're playing kind of baity positions that require swings to come out into CT. I think that is a round that they have a good chance of winning with guns, but again, they don't play the CTs wouldn't play around like that if there were guns present. They knew they were playing against pistols and they could try something gimmicky.
And to borrow a term from UFC, what we might call the tail of the tape, I think. Would you be willing to bring up the scoreboard for us, RJ Soares? So we are seeing a pretty comfortable lead in the frags on the CT side. Would you be able to toggle that over to the ADR? I think the ADR tells the real story here, though. I noticed it after the half. We have higher ADR, probably by 20 to 30 points on average on the CT side. So even though, I mean, of course, that's reflected in the CTs having more kills, we do see more utility usage. Well, I hesitate to say overall because it looks like Scotch and Drew with 9 flat enemies flashed, lots of utility damage on the T side. But the CTs are definitely bringing the ADR to the fight, and they are seemingly just frankly landing more shots. The question will be whether the terrorists can bring their ADR up and turn that utility damage into more kills, like on this push here.
Good setup. Dingo has no utility. All he really has is that CT player. Still, he gets 2 there. Takes way too long for any sort of offensive to pop out against him, and Brim Reaper pushing into coffins does get killed. And I think you look at those ADR stats. You've got 3 players on the CT side with almost 100 ADR. Tumas on 92, Dingo on 107, and Waiton on 103. Even if you're losing 6 to 14, you shouldn't have players on the other side with that high of an ADR stat. I think it sort of speaks to the fact that you're giving up free kills. There needs to be an adjustment. You need to group up because very clearly the slow play isn't working. You just need to try something quick. And that's exactly what we're gonna get in this round.
We're gonna get an absolute sprint up alt mid, but T-Dogs is there with an op, a collateral. Saber is able to respond, but can they retrieve this op? Waiting there in the I never know what to call that. Is that living room? What
I
do you call
usually
that?
call it window room. Some people call it bedroom.
I've heard so many different callouts. He's in the room. He is home. And they're knocking on the door and getting knocked down in return. Saber's the last man standing with a Tech 9 dancing around with weights in there in Boiler, but that's the end of the round for AVI.
One more round left. If AVI want to fight back, now would be the time. But they'd have to win 9 rounds in a row just to push it to overtime. And who knows what happens then? Sure, you shatter the mental of the other team, but still, there's always room to misplay when you yourself have just made this massive comeback, and now you feel like you have to capitalize off of it, as opposed to a team that says, okay, we threw the lead, but we're in overtime, we can still bring it back, and we can still win the game.
And the mental is such a huge part of Counter-Strike. Being able to not only read the opponents in terms of their play style, but being able to read them in terms of their mental game, where they're likely to be at. Frankly, Scotch probably just put T-Dogs on his back foot mentally. They're going to molly out Foxbird here in the pit. Foxbird's going to find Scotch. Two terrorists there in the lane position. One still back by middle and another one coming long haul. The smokes and more mollies are coming out, but Foxbird says he's tired of burning and smokes it off. 2v4 with the terrorists finding a pick onto Tumas elsewhere on the map. 3v2 now, 2v2. The trade's coming in fast and furious. Brim Reaper finding Dingo. Foxbird finding Drew. 1v1 now. Both players lit. Very little utility left to work with, and the bomb down in a position that's going to be hard for Brim Reaper to recover. It's going to come down to a team deathmatch. He decides to start spraying the cart. Gets some good damage. Flashes out. Didn't quite catch Foxbird with that one. Could he catch him with this one? No, but he knows exactly where he's at, and it's going to come down to the whack-a-mole from hell as Foxbird picks off Brim Reaper and closes out this match. 16 for Savannah, 6 for AVI.
AVI not really finding their tempo in that match, not able to match each other step for step, not able to figure out what they can do together, how fast they should be playing. And at the end of the day, Savannah, they just looked more cohesive, more put together.
They just had a stronger game. And, like we were talking about with those stats, we've got 3 players with 20 kills on
And the
the side of
utility
Savannah.
damage on the T's, that's crazy. Hundreds of utility damage on several players. That's the sort of utility damage you would see in a one-sided, maybe Vertigo game when the other team is just running through your ramp utility.
We had so much, like 600 utility damage on one of the terrorists. But I have to imagine that was probably largely nades that were just chipping a little off the CTs or even catching some people in the edges of mollies. It didn't seem to translate into significant positive momentum for them or any sort of real progress.
And that was the real story of the game, you know. You get the space, you get the utility damage, you get the smokes down, and you get you get the players there, but you're not getting anything off of it. You're not benefiting, and I think that's really what lost AVI that game.
Well, folks, this has been the first match of the preseason for AVI and Savannah's challenger teams. We've got RJ Soros, of course, on the observer position. I'm Super Soup. Joining me is
Man,
Antlion,
it the goat lion, man. Come on
the
now.
Goat Lion. Oh man, it's been a fun match to watch. Hopefully you all had fun as well. I'm not sure. Are we going to be streaming another match tonight, or is that all she wrote?
I believe all of the matches for tonight are completed, so I do think we are calling it here.
Calling it here. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Antlion. Thank you for observing RJ Soros, and thank you all for watching. We will see you next time at CSC Season 11.